This is Inside Mside, your favorite podcast for all things Morningside. Hear stories from students, alumni, faculty, and more about what makes the Morningside experience so special.
Hello. Welcome to Inside Mside. I'm one of your hosts, Alisanne, and today I am here with professor and author, Dr. Jessica Pleuss. Can you introduce yourself and your role at Morningside?
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm Jessica Pleuss. I'm a professor in the psychology department. I've been here at Morningside since 2012, so it's been a minute. And I'm our developmental psychologist, so I teach all of our classes related to child development, adulthood and aging, that kind of thing, along with some general psychology classes.
Absolutely. And now an author.
And now I'm an author. Yeah, it's very
it.
exciting.
Can you tell me about your book and what it's about?
Yeah, so the book is called Sharing My Family, and it's a children's picture book, and it's about foster care. So in particular, it's about foster care written from the perspective of children who are in a family when they decide to do foster care. And so it's like the biological or the adopted children already in a family and what it's like to welcome foster children into your home. And that's a big change for kids.
I'm sure. Can you kind of share your experience with foster care and what motivated you to write the book?
Yeah, absolutely. So my husband and I got licensed to be foster parents in 2017. And it takes, almost a year usually to go through that process. So we started seriously in 2016. And at that time, I had 2 little kids. And we were looking for ways to sort of help explain to them, what we were thinking of for our family and what it might be like. And the field that I'm in and the work I do, I specialize in early childhood. So I've got so many children's books. And I searched and I searched and I searched. And I found, a handful of books about foster care, which were useful and which I bought to have on hand. But I couldn't find a single one written either from the perspective of or intended for children who are in the family that's doing the fostering. They were all written for the foster child, which is another important area. We need some more good literature. But I couldn't find anything that I could read to my kids to give them a sense of what this major change might be like.
Right. I gotcha. And I think there's almost kind of a misconception that, writing a kid's book must be easy. And I'm sure you can maybe attest that that's not the case. Can you tell me about your writing process and how, for me, it's like another language to write to children and what they'll understand. So can you tell me about your writing process?
Sure. So, first, it took a long time for me to come to the decision that I should attempt this, right? Because I didn't think of myself as an author. But I do know a lot about children and their perspective and cognition and what they understand, both from a parent and as a professor. So I'd say the first step was just this idea had to germinate literally for years inside my brain. It wasn't until I was sort of dreaming up what I could do on a sabbatical and applying for my sabbatical that I realized, what, I've got the expertise. And at that point, then I'd had several years foster experience as a foster parent. And maybe I should just try writing the book that I wish my kids had had. So then it was a matter of doing as much research as I could to learn about it. And that was mostly online. I got some great tips from friends and colleagues. I joined professional organizations. I did, online trainings to learn about children's book publishing and industry. So, you just get it all out in a first draft, as any sort of writer does. And then for children's writing, it's mostly cutting back, right? The big challenge is too many words.
Yep.
Too many words, right? So rounds and rounds of drafts and edits and revisions till I got it to a somewhat reasonable size, and then sending it out for feedback, which is the scary step, right? Have someone else read it. But yeah, you go through lots and lots of drafts to try and you want to keep the essential parts to tell the story and to get the audience where you want them, but you really don't want anything extra, especially for young kids in picture books, because they just don't have the attention span.
Right.
Yeah.
And the publishing process, what is that like? Because that's something that I don't have experience with.
Sure. Well, there's kind of a couple of options, right? There's the traditional publishing route, which would be that you send your manuscript off to a publisher, see if they're interested, right? And that involves maybe hiring an agent, and it's a very involved process. Or there's independent publishing. And so that was another big decision in this process as I got further and I had a manuscript that I thought was a good idea, was which of those directions do I want to go, right? And initially I sent it to a few publishers to sort of feel it out. It's sort of a, narrow topic with a specific audience. Right. And so not surprisingly, wasn't picked up by anybody. And so eventually I decided I would look into independent publishing. And so that was a whole other journey over the past couple of years that I've been learning about how to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure. And I mean, timeline from the release date of this book is coming up, right?
Yeah, so it's released September 1st, be available for purchase. You can pre-order it now, but that's when it's actually available to purchase.
Wonderful. And so, I mean, from the time that you started this to September 1st, what was the timeline from you sat down and wrote the first word to now?
Sure. So that sabbatical I took was spring of 2021. And so that was writing that first draft. I actually got through 8 drafts in that semester-long sabbatical.
Yeah.
So I got to the point where I had something I was willing to send off to publishers. And then what I've learned in this process, I am full-time professor, is that during the academic year, I just don't have much time, right?
Right.
And
absolutely.
I'm a parent and foster parent. So it's been like winter breaks and summer breaks.
Yep.
I'll go back to the book. And so it was, a year and a half after that that I decided maybe I should look into this independent publishing thing.
Right. Absolutely.
So then a big step in that was deciding, do I hire an illustrator or do I do those illustrations
That was going to be my next question.
Yes.
Tell me about illustrating.
Well, and that was tricky because the advice out there is always do not illustrate it yourself, right? Like if you're asking the question, it means you're not a professional illustrator, so don't do it. So what did I do? I decided to do it, right? Because I loved art in high school. I considered majoring it in college. I didn't go that way, so I didn't really develop those skills, but I wanted to see if I could.
Yeah.
And so in spring of 2024, I took an illustration class here at Morningside.
Wonderful.
Which was a lot of fun. I loved it.
Yeah.
And my goal in taking that class was really to decide either, maybe I can do this. Maybe I should try and do the illustrations, or, maybe just discover like, no, that's way beyond my skill set. I don't think I can. And I decided to try it.
Who taught the class?
Yeah. Kent McCudden, one of our adjunct faculty over in art, taught it. He's a graphic designer who's done a lot of illustration work. And it was really fascinating.
Yeah,
it was great to be a student again.
After, absolutely.
Being on the other side for so long and to just get to learn and get to do something very different and outside of my typical area.
Yeah. And so you do the illustrations yourself. I've seen a copy of the book and I think they're wonderful.
Thank you.
For parents looking to get this book, for maybe they have a family that they're wanting to bring foster children into, I mean, what is your advice for them?
Yeah, I mean, my advice for them is that it's worth considering, right? And my hope for this book is that it will make it into the hands of foster parents for sure, but also into classrooms and childcare centers. I think foster care is something that's just never talked about. And so a lot of kids have no idea what it is, right? And that's a shame because they might not know it, but there are kids around them who are maybe involved in the system one way or another. So I'm sort of hoping this will introduce the topic. It's been nice to get feedback as I've had colleagues and friends read it, and some of them read it with and to their children. Often I hear back that, afterwards my son asked us, why aren't we a foster family?
Yeah.
And that might put the parents in a little bit of an awkward position, but that's good, right? Like, people should consider it. I think not enough people, there's this mistaken idea that you've got to be a superhero to be a foster parent, right?
Yeah.
And you really don't. Everyday people, right? Everyday people who are willing to do some extra training and kind of put themselves out there. And that's really what we need. So
that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else you want to share about your book or about being a foster parent? Anything else you want to share?
Well, I guess what I've learned through this whole process is that going outside your comfort zone can be really rewarding, right?
Absolutely.
And it's good to try new things, whether that's, for me, writing and illustrating a book or considering being a foster parent or, just other things you might do outside of your everyday life.
Yeah.
It's good to stretch yourself.
Absolutely. I think that's great advice. Everyone should listen to that. Thank you so much for sitting down and talking about this. It's so interesting for us to hear. And I know everyone in the Morningside community is really proud that we have another author on campus. How wonderful. And the release of the book is September.
So it's available to purchase September 1st, and then we're going to have a fun little launch party book signing.
Yes, absolutely.
October 11th.
Yes, very excited for that. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sitting down.
Yes, thank
you, listeners, for listening to another episode of Inside Mside.